Part 10. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 91. As if it were stained with flames, the hair was quickly burned by the green light. Lin Yi did not stop and arrived in front of the hazy figure in one step. The Vajra seal and the fearless seal were performed at the same time, with infinite green and gold brilliance. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. It almost illuminated the entire room and slammed heavily towards the hazy figure. Countless strands of hair stabbed at Lin Yi from all directions. Countless green lights surged, like green flames, burning all the hair that approached. At the same time, the strange child's countless black tentacles intercepted most of the long hair. Bang! The golden seal light fell heavily on the hazy figure. A muffled sound exploded, and the green and golden lights drowned the hazy figure. A strange and shrill scream exploded in Lin Yi's mind. Gee! This strange scream went straight to the heart, and Lin Yi felt dizzy and almost exploded. At the critical moment, his hands were not vague at all, an endless green and golden light burst out, igniting all the hazy figures. Zzz. A piece of black smoke exploded, and strange invisible ripples spread from the strange hazy figure to the entire room. A trace of strange power flew out from the center of the explosion and was sucked into Lin Yi's body. While the Yiling Jing was running, it was digested and absorbed in a breath and integrated into the second hand seal lotus. The 21st hand seal was completely lit up, hazy and mysterious. At this time, the black smoke in the room gradually dissipated and was absorbed by the surrounding space. Lin Yi could feel that the power of the strange magic cube in his bedroom had increased. It seems that after killing these strange existences, a trace of core power will be swallowed by the Yiling Jing. The other debris will be swallowed by the strange magic cube and gradually grow. As the hazy and strange existence was destroyed by Lin Yi, the influence on Brandy seemed to disappear. His expression slowly calmed down, and then he fell into a deep sleep. Lin Yi took a deep breath. Just now he teamed up with the strange child. It took most of his energy and spiritual waves to kill the strange existence. After all, although he was not very powerful at the level of human immortal, he was much stronger than Lin Yi, so he had to go all out. He looked at the strange child, continued to protect him. Turning and leaving the room, Lin Yi lay on the sofa in the lobby for a night, paying attention to the dangers that might appear at any time. After this night, it was safe, and no strange incidents happened again. Lin Yi, who was lying on the sofa, had a thought in his mind. It seems that I still have to go to the blood department of the black-clothed man. Early the next morning, as Brandy woke up, the Wanchai was started a day of business. Brandy was energetic, and it seemed that he had slept well last night. Lin Yi looked at Brandy. You can watch the store by yourself, I'm going to catch up on my sleep. Okay, manager. Brandy was a little puzzled, why Lin Yi didn't go to practice. In fact, Lin Yi's current Vajra seal has reached a certain limit. What is needed is an opportunity. There is no need to practice at all, and the essence will flow naturally in the body. Evening soon arrived, and Lin Yi, who had slept for a day, came to the lobby. Brandy looked at Lin Yi, his eyes lit up. Manager, you got up, what do you want for dinner? Convenient and fast, coffee and bacon sandwiches. When? A few minutes later, Brandy had brought the plate to Lin Yi and put down the sandwiches and bacon sandwiches. Manager, please enjoy. Lin Yi picked up the coffee and smelled it. Not bad. After more than 10 minutes, after finishing the meal, Lin Yi stood up and said to Brandy, I'm going out for a while, I'll be back before 12 o'clock. Okay, manager, Brandy agreed without asking anything. Ringing. Accompanied by the welcoming bell, Lin Yi left the Wanchai Wu. Walking on the street, the sky was already dark, and he walked towards the Orchid Street in the east of Honglian City. Orchid Street is a famous entertainment street in Honglian City. Here the whole street is full of bars, KTVs, and various restaurants. The bright lights and wine can be said to be the favorite place for young people, especially at this time. The street is busy, and the famous restaurants are already full of people. Lin Yi got off the bus, and was greeted by countless people. Various music can be heard from time to time on both sides of the street. The shops are gorgeously decorated, and young people dressed in fashionable clothes gather here. Lin Yi can even see street dances in the small square on the street, a group of carefree young people. The familiar atmosphere made Lin Yi feel a change in time and space, as if he had returned to the earth in his previous life. Really, a nostalgic feeling. Lin Yi has been in Honglian for a long time, and he has never been to this orchid street. This is where rich people, white-collar workers, young men and women gather. The street is full of beautiful cars and beauties, and there are even some who kiss passionately in the car. This street is different from other places in Dongcheng. There are all kinds of exquisite single-family buildings with different decorations. Lin Yi, dressed simply, walked on this street, giving people a sense of abruptness. Wearing a dark leather jacket, jeans, and leather boots, and gloves with 5 fingers exposed on his hands, he gave people a sense of rusticity. However, Lin Yi didn't care about the strange looks around him, and walked along the sidewalk towards number 13 Lanhua Street. In this world, 13 is not an auspicious number. It is always associated with evil and death. Standing in front of number 13 Orchid Street, this is a place with a relatively quiet atmosphere on the street. Hell Bar, this name gives people an inexplicable meaning. In addition, the completely old style here, without any modern atmosphere, gives people a more weird feeling. People strolling outside the Hell Bar were all surprised when they saw Lin Yazan walk in. Hell Bar is very famous on this street. Many people will come out pale after entering. It is said that people who go in will see horrible things, and many people even dare not come to Orchid Street again. An inexplicable person actually went in, which naturally attracted the attention of many people. In the Rose Bar opposite the Hell Bar, behind the French window of the door, a beautiful and hot woman in red is looking in the direction of the Hell Bar. Flaming red lips, as if the heat of fire is burning all over her body. Perfect figure, age in her 20s, youth combined with wildness, people will be on fire at the first sight of her. The manager of Rose Bar, Ms. Rose, was very busy in her bar at this time. Many male guests looked at her with enthusiasm, and the female guests also looked at her with admiration. However, she had long been accustomed to these looks and gazes, and did not care. Her eyes fell on Lin Yi, who disappeared in the door of Hell Bar across from her. He is recruited by the Blood Department, a new external employee. Last time he caused quite a stir, and Mobi seemed to be defeated by him. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 92. It seems that he will be the one to solve this matter. A hint of expectation appeared in Ms. Rose's eyes. The cold and sad music echoed in the Hell Bar, the lights were dim, and the decoration of the bar was very strange. Darkness, blood, sadness, and coldness constitute the main theme here. At a glance, this bar is about 100 square meters, and a dark red bar is at the end of the bar lobby. A woman with red hair stood behind the bar, looking at her mobile phone in boredom. There was only one man in black sitting with his head down in the lobby of the bar. He wore a black hat and a black cup was placed in front of him. He exuded a strange coldness all over his body, not a simple character. Lin Yi's eyes quickly swept across the bar and confirmed that there were only 2 people here. After thinking about it, he walked directly to the bar and looked at the woman behind the bar. "Hello. Hello, what do you want to drink?" a hoarse female voice sounded, and the woman raised her head. An ordinary face, with a narrow knife scar on the left corner of the eye extending all the way to the chin. Lin Yi's expression remained unchanged, and he said calmly, "I'm here to find Bai Minjiao. This is my batch." As he spoke, a badge appeared in Lin Yi's hand. This was the one Bai Minjiao gave him when they signed the contract. On it was a man with blood-sucking vines wrapped around his body. The man's head was lowered, and his face could not be seen clearly. The woman saw the badge in Lin Yi's hand, looked up at Lin Yi, and said, "Follow me." As she spoke, she opened the small door of the bar and let Lin Yi in. The two of them passed through the door curtain behind the bar and saw a corridor about 10 meters long. The walls of the corridor were wrapped in dark red materials, and there was a strange picture on the top. The existence of countless blood-red monsters formed a monster vortex, rushing towards the middle. There was a man tied to a cross, with countless blood-sucking vines entangled all over his body. The monsters rushing towards him were tied up by vines and sucked blood. Looking closely, these vines all grew out of the man's body, with a very strange breath. Less than 10 meters away, the two of them came to the end of the passage in a few steps. There was a black wooden door on the left. The woman reached out her hand and knocked on the door gently. Dong dong dong. A powerful voice sounded, "Come in." The woman turned the door handle, pushed open the wooden door, and made way, "Please come in." Lin Yi smiled at the woman, nodded in thanks, and then walked in. What came into view was an ordinary office with a black marble floor and classical wallpaper on the walls. A red solid wood desk was in the middle of the room, and a man was sitting there. It was Bai Minjiao. "Hello, Deputy Minister Bai. Mr. Lin Yi is really a rare guest. This is a coincidence. I just need your help with something. But Mr. Lin Yi is here, I'm afraid there is something else. Please tell me first." Lin Yi thought for a while. "Actually, it's nothing, I just want to know more about strange things. For example, strange things, will they attract strange things?" Bai Minjiao raised his eyebrows and looked at Lin Yi with a fixed look. "Mr. Lin, did the strange object at the core of the strange illusion you got cause any problems?" Bai Minjiao obviously knew something, and his face was a little solemn. Lin Yi nodded. "There are some problems. Some strange things have been appearing in my house in recent days." Bai Minjiao nodded, with an expression of as expected, and said solemnly, "Those are all attracted by strange objects. According to our understanding, these beings do not seem to be in the same time and space as us. But as long as strange objects exist in one place for more than a period of time, they will continue to attract such strange beings. They will attack nearby lives silently, causing casualties, a very dangerous phenomenon. But these things can only appear at night, and the time they can exist is also very short. As long as you are careful, it will not cause too much problem." Lin Yi raised his eyebrows when he heard this. "Is there any specific information? I want to study it." Bai Minjiao nodded. "There is information, and Mr. Lin's identity can also be checked. I'll ask Li Changfang to get it for you." As he said, he picked up the phone on the desk and dialed a number. "What's the matter?" a familiar female voice sounded on the phone. Lin Yi recognized who it was, and it was the woman who brought him in. "Is it Li Changfang?" His heart moved. "Make a copy of the research materials related to the strange objects in the strange fantasy and the strange existence." "Okay, Deputy Minister." After hanging up the phone, Bai Minjiao looked at Lin Yi and smiled slightly. "Mr. Lin, please sit down. She will bring the materials in later. It will take some time. Now we can talk about other things." Lin Yi nodded and sat on the chair in front of Bai Minjiao's desk. "What's the matter? Deputy Minister Bai seems very anxious." Bai Minjiao smiled bitterly. "This matter is really urgent. The higher UPS have issued an order to solve it as soon as possible, but there is no clue at all about that matter." Lin Yi was a little confused. "You are a special agency, and you can't find out?" Bai Minjiao shook his head. "It's called a special agency, but our strength is just that. The empire has only been established for a few decades, although a large amount of manpower and material resources have been concentrated to study strange objects. But our achievements are not much. We are still far behind those ancient strange forces. There is a limit to the understanding of strange things. Mr. Lin may not understand it just by talking about it. You may understand it after reading this document. Bai Minjiao handed a document to Lin Yi. After receiving this clue, Lin Yi read it carefully. As he read it, he couldn't help but frown. The content of the document was very scary. The content was about a case, a disaster that occurred in the largest nightclub on Orchid Street, Lan Kuai-Fong Bar. Lan Kuai-Fong is a large 3-story mansion with a history of 200 years. It is divided into 3 levels. The first level is a place where ordinary people can play. The second level is for rich people and beautiful women. Ordinary people are not qualified to go there. The third level is a place where people with noble status can go. It is magnificent and luxurious. Even Lin Yi, who is not interested in these things, has heard of Lan Kuai-Fong. It is the most famous nightclub in Honglian City, making a fortune every day. But this nightclub was hit by a fire in December last year, causing numerous casualties. Even many high-ranking people were killed in the fire. The Honglian City Police Department was shocked and conducted a detailed investigation, arresting many people. After the investigation, many shocking things were discovered. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 93. Lan Kuai-Fong was burned to rubble with hundreds of corpses inside. According to on-site autopsy reports, a considerable number of the bodies were not burned to death at all. They were killed. There was no trace of ashes in their lungs in their burned bodies. But no one knows what killed them. The only information we know is that there are many secret rooms in the VIP rooms on the 3rd floor of Lan Kuai-Fong. There were many horrific torture instruments and wreckage in the room, casting a terrifying shadow over the entire incident. For a time, there were all kinds of scary messages about the accident in Lan Kuai-Fong. As a result, no one dared to come to Orchid Street for a while. After all, Lan Kuai-Fong is right in the middle of Orchid Street. With so many people dead, who dares to hang out here? However, in the end, there was no follow-up to this matter and it was deliberately downplayed. A month later, Orchid Street returned to its former glory. But no one in Lan Kuai-Fong dared to take over anymore. After all, too many people had died. But this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that something happened again in Lan Kuai-Fong. A few days ago, a few young people were playing a game of truth or dare. One of the people with some status lost, and according to the rules, chose a big adventure, and the lucky draw was to go on an adventure in Lan Kuai-Fong. Something happened right away. After the man went in, he never came out again. His friends outside waited for an hour but no one came out before they realized something might have happened. In addition, the man had some identity, so he panicked and immediately called the police. Officers arrived at the scene and immediately conducted a search and notified the missing man's family. The man's father was the son of the director of the Honglian City Security Department. After getting the news, Lan Kuai-Fong immediately became a mess. A large number of personnel were dispatched to conduct detailed investigations and searches, but still nothing was found. People who enter seem to disappear out of thin air, leaving no trace behind. Until now, I don't know whether he is alive or dead. After going through layers of scrutiny, this matter was sent to the location of the man in black. The men in black are required to solve the problem as soon as possible and find the missing man, whether dead or alive. Lin Yi finished reading all the information, shook his head with a frown, and looked up at Bai Minjiao. Is this the task you want me to help solve? Bai Minjiao smiled and said, yes, As an external commissioner, Mr. Lin has not completed his share of basic tasks this year. I also visited the scene of this case and saw nothing wrong with it. Originally I would be responsible for this, but I'm afraid I have to go out in the next few days. The minister is in trouble and needs additional personnel. Mr. Lin came here today and happened to meet him, so I don't know if Mr. Lin can take on this task. The rest of the team are only mortals. In terms of pure combat power, I can't match Mr. Lin. I'm afraid I'm not equipped to deal with the dangers involved. After completing this task, this year's basic tasks will be over. Lin Yi thought for a while, how dangerous is this mission? Bai Minjiao looked serious. There is a certain danger, after all, hundreds of people died. Then there are two of them who are at least top-level martial arts masters. This mission is also classified as D-level in the blood department, and it requires combat power at the level of human immortality. And I don't know if the thing hidden behind this case is a strange object, a resentful spirit, or a man-made disaster. Each one is definitely difficult to deal with. If Mr. Lin doesn't want to take it, that's okay. We will ask other external specialists. The constraints of the external commissioners are very small. It is enough to help each department of the Men in Black complete one special event every year. And he has a huge right to choose, and he has the right to refuse tasks that he feels are dangerous. Lin Yi looked at the document and flipped through it carefully. He tapped the file lightly with his fingers and said in a deep voice after a few minutes, "I can take on this mission, but if there is an irresistible danger, I will quit immediately." Bai Minjiao laughed. "This is a natural and irresistible danger, and we will not let you risk your life." Lin Yi nodded, "That's fine." Dong dong dong. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a knock on the door outside. "Li Changfang is here. Come in." Crunch. Li Changfang pushed open the door and entered with a stack of documents in her hand. He took a few steps to Bai Minjiao's desk and placed the information in front of him. "This is some research information currently known about strange objects. We have permission to read parts of it." Bai Minjiao said to Lin Yuda, "Mr. Lin, this is the information you want. You can take it back and read it slowly, as long as you don't leak it at will. As for that case, Mr. Lin can start investigating tomorrow. I will arrange for a member of the blood department, Huang Yiming, to investigate with you. If you have any needs, you can tell him." Lin Yi nodded, "Thank you very much. I'll take my leave today." Bai Minjiao stood up and said, "Mr. Lin, walk slowly. Li Changfang, please see Mr. Lin out." Lin Yi and Li Changfang quickly left Bai Minjiao's office and disappeared from each other's eyes. Bai Minjiao's eyes flickered as he looked at the document in his hand. There were many bloody words on it. Class B case, mysterious serial deaths in Nanjing. It's been such an eventful time. Led by Li Changfang, Lin Yi stood at the door of Hell Bar in a few minutes. In the Rose Bar opposite, Mrs. Rose looked at Lin Yi, who walked out of Hell Bar with an unpredictable look. With a smile on her lips, it seems that a good show is going to be staged. Ring, ring, ring. Back to the Wanchaiwu, Brandy looked at Lin Yi and was happy. "Manager, you are back. Well, is there anything when I was away?" "No, manager." Brandy shrank his neck, as if thinking of what happened a few days ago. "There are not many people in the store now, and it is deserted." Lin Yi sat in front of the French window, carefully looking at the information obtained from the blood department. While watching, Lin Yi's expression kept changing. There are a lot of things written in the information, which greatly enriched Lin Yi's understanding of strange things. Strange things, the origin is unknown. According to the research of historical records, the earliest document records that it appeared as early as the ancient era. 3 million years ago. The earliest information about strange objects was analyzed from the pictures and texts recorded on some mysterious metals. These metals have not decayed for millions of years, which is very magical. Each piece is a treasure treasured by various forces, and a lot of information recorded on it can subvert human history. This document will naturally not record the content of this information in detail. It only summarizes the records of various periods of human beings and shows that strange objects are a completely unknown existence or phenomenon. The reason for their appearance is still an unsolved mystery. The only thing that can be confirmed is that the house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 94. Weird things are usually born from resentful objects. And if the original owners of these objects still have resentment, under the power of the weird things, they will become more dangerous weird beings, with the power of weird things, and at the same time have certain wisdom and instincts. After killing the weird existence, you can get the weird things from the wreckage of the other party. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. There are various kinds of weird things, with various functions, and some can even kill people silently. Among them, the weird things have one most dangerous characteristic. Once they gather in large numbers in one place, they will attract some mysterious unknown weird existences, which are born with the power of weird things. But they themselves are not born from weird things, a kind of innate weird existence with wisdom and power. These unknown weird existences are usually extremely dangerous, and if they are not good, they will cause large-scale deaths. They are much more dangerous than the weird existence formed by weird things. According to the conclusion of the Red Lotus Empire's research, these strange existences are very likely to come from the source of the power of strange objects. Where is named, the alien world. The preservation of strange objects has always been a very dangerous thing. At present, only a limited number of forces in the Red Lotus world have the ability to preserve a large number of strange objects. This ability can only be achieved in a mysterious place in the Red Lotus Empire. The information stops here. Lin Yi thought, strange existence. Strange existence in the alien world. That is to say, my strange magic cube, after integrating the power of various strange objects, will spontaneously attract these strange and unknown existences from the alien world to come. The source of strange power? I don't know what kind of world it is. Lin Yi instinctively felt that there seemed to be a huge black curtain hidden behind this strange object. An incredible existence that runs through millions of years of history. How terrifying their roots are is simply unimaginable. In Lin Yi's mind, strange existences have been classified as extremely dangerous by him. But what's interesting is that my Yuling Sutra seems to have a huge restraining effect on them. After killing these strange beings, some of their fundamental power can be extracted. By absorbing and transforming into my Yuling Sutra spiritual waves, light up one handprint lotus after another. It seems that the two are not unrelated. What is the origin of Yuling Sutra? Although Lin Yi is not a very smart person, but after experiencing the era of technological explosion and the impact of network information, he still has some knowledge. At least when he was in China, the information he was exposed to was many times more than the information on the internet in this era. Combined with the information obtained from the black-clothed man, he instinctively felt that the origin of Yuling Sutra was not simple. He closed the information and files, looked up at the sky, the dim light, and another day had passed. He opened the Tide app and looked at it. Recently, things about resentful spirits have frequently appeared in various parts of the Red Lotus Empire. It even attracted some powerful warriors to take action. He even shot various videos, all of which were scenes of warriors destroying those resentful spirits. Basically, they have over 1 million hits and countless comments. Lin Yi scrolled through many videos and saw all kinds of vengeful spirits. At least more than 30 completely different types of vengeful spirits appeared, which made him secretly shocked. There weren't so many before, although the vengeful spirits have always existed. But the frequency of appearance in the past few days seems to be too high. With a hint of doubt, Lin Yi shook his head. It seems that the consequences of this legendary world change are becoming more and more obvious. Feeling the rhythm of the great power Vajrasil method in his body, he resonated slightly with the outside world. The resonance is getting stronger and stronger, and the breakthrough is not far away. The human immortal path, from mortal to immortal, in the ancient times of the Red Lotus realm. In an era with no energy activity, a person who appears once in 1,000 years, but now the human immortal path is no longer rare. After watching the Tide app for a while, Lin Yi returned to his room and began his daily practice. The strange Spirit Sutra circulated in his body, in his mind. One of the 22nd hand seal lotus hand seals brightened a little. In the Wanchaiwu, the figure of the strange child kept wandering on the second floor, and the two-headed dog was also patrolling on the first floor. The purple corpse monster was staring in the backyard, and the poisonous doctor was emitting mist all over his body, covering the backyard. Guarding here with the purple corpse monster, whoever comes will die. Lin Yi is always on guard against those strange things holding power and coveting the strange things in the core of the strange illusion. He believes that these forces will not give up so easily, maybe they are waiting for him to relax. This night was very peaceful, and nothing happened. Those mysterious strange beings from other worlds did not visit the Wanchaiwu again. It seems that the successive deaths of strange beings from other worlds made them feel dangerous. Lin Yi was a little disappointed that he dared not visit again easily. After all, a strange thing from other worlds at the level of human immortal can light up 10 hand seals. He is very much looking forward to what the effect will be after all the lotuses of his second hand seal are lit up. The first hand seal is the true destiny solution, which allows him to see all the mysteries between heaven and earth. You can directly see the secrets of the operation of any martial art, learn it secretly, and it can also be directly circulated in the body. The only problem is that the endurance of his own body limits the operation of the technique. This ability is beyond belief, at least he has never heard of anyone with a similar ability. In the morning of the Wanchaiwu, Brandy was practicing King Myugong in the backyard. This technique, which he learned from Lin Yi, allowed him to enter the door of practice. When Lin Yi came to the backyard, he looked at Brandy with a flash of green in his eyes. He carefully observed the flow of qi in his body and nodded slightly. The qi is already there, and the next step is to continuously refine and strengthen it. After more than 10 minutes, Brandy finished practicing, and a faint green flashed across his face. A voice sounded in his ear, "I'm going out to do something today, be careful." Brandy quickly stood up from the ground and looked at Lin Yi and said, "Manager, are you going out again?" "Well, you look after the store." "Okay, manager. First, let's have a black pepper steak. 2 eggs, half cooked." "Okay." Brandy heard Lin Yi's order, quickly tidied himself up, and then walked towards the bar. Lin Yi sat in front of the French window, looking at the street outside. Spring has arrived, and the green plants on both sides of the road have begun to sprout green buds. In his eyes, he can see all kinds of colors that permeate the world. They are all kinds of energy, and these energies are filled with an inexplicable spirituality. This was not the case some time ago. Is this the truth of the world's changes? These energies seem to have become more active. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 95. The energy I used to feel was extremely lazy and without any spirituality. Now it is full of spirituality and is more easily absorbed by the human body. Is this the truth of the world's changes? It's amazing. When a plate of fragrant steak appeared in front of Lin Yi. It was sprinkled with rich black pepper, and the tempting aroma made people drool. Lin Yi nodded with satisfaction, picked up the knife and fork, and began to feast on it. The tender beef was plump and juicy, and the mouth was full of meaty flavor. Lin Yi made a satisfied sound, "It's delicious." Half an hour later, Lin Yi, who was full of wine and food, put down the knife and fork in his hand. Ring ring ring. Walking out of the Wanchaiwu, looking at the sky, Two blood-red suns were hanging high, and he walked towards Orchid Street. Wearing two rings on his hands and holding a picture album in his arms. Lin Yi has taken away all his strange objects. After all, he has to investigate a big case today. Maybe there will be unknown dangers, so he naturally has to go all out. Breathing the fresh air in the morning, the streets are bustling. It is working time in the morning, countless people are flowing on the streets, and various street stalls are also doing business. As Lin Yi walked, he felt the hustle and bustle. The prosperity of mankind, although there is a gap in technology and the previous life, it is not big. If it weren't for the experience of light body, it would be unbelievable. There are all kinds of supernatural phenomena in this world. If it weren't for these things, the Red Lotus realm is almost the same as the earth. Lin Yi wandered around and soon arrived at Orchid Street. Orchid Street is very deserted in the early morning, and it is prosperous at night. It is usually closed during the day. When Lin Yi came here, a man in black came to greet him. "Mr. Lin, I'm Huan Yiming, a member of the blood team. As soon as you came out, someone notified me. I'll accompany you to execute this case today." Lin Yi glanced at Huan Yiming and smiled slightly. "Huan Yiming, hello, I'm Lin Yi, I'm bothering you today." "Of course, Mr. Lin Yi, please follow me." Huan Yiming took the lead and led the way for Lin Yi, and the two soon came to the center of Orchid Street. An area blocked by a cordon, inside which was a burned building. However, this building seemed to be built entirely of rocks and looked very hard. After the burning, there was no sign of damage. Huan Yiming picked up the cordon and looked at Lin Yi and said, "Mr. Lin, please come in." Crossing the cordon, the two came to the gate of the ruins of the Lan Kwai Fong night club. In the Rose Bar not far from Lan Kwai Fong on Orchid Street. Ms. Rose looked at the place where the two disappeared, smoking a slender pipe, with a hint of playfulness in her eyes. "Are you here so early? The Lan Kwai Fong incident is not simple." Ms. Rose looked at a report in her hand. She had just received the news that Lin Yi was leaving, so she came here to watch. She looked down at the document, which was yellowed paper and looked many years old. There were a few blood-red characters written on it. "Butcher's guess, Red Lotus Demon Investigation Report. You Blood Department don't know this information. I wonder if this external specialist will meet the legendary Red Lotus Demon when he enters Lan Kwai Fong. This is a huge mystery." Ms. Rose had an inexplicable smile on her lips. In front of the ruins of Lan Kwai Fong, Lin Yi looked at the ground under his feet. A charred mark and messy footprints, obviously many people have been here. Huan Yiming is a thin man with a very sharp look. He looked at Lin Yi, his eyes solemn, and said, "Mr. Lin, let me give you a detailed introduction to Lan Kwai Fong. This place was once called Moro Mansion. It was built 100 years ago and was made of Qinggang stone, which is a very hard stone. The original owner of the mansion was a great nobleman of the previous dynasty. The brother of the last emperor of the previous dynasty, Honglian Mo. This building is 3 stories high and covers an area of 3,000 square meters. It is a noble mansion. There are many rooms inside, and there is a garden in the center of the mansion. Lan Kwai Fong is an entertainment venue created by a big shot in Honglian City after taking over. So many big things happened this time. Which big shot is very angry? Mr. Lin, where do you want to see first?" Lin Yi thought for a while. "Let's go in first, take a look around, and understand the basic situation." Creaky. Pushing open the shabby door, you can see a shabby outer corridor. There are black scorched earth on both sides, and the countless flowers, plants, and trees planted inside have been destroyed in that fire. The outer corridor was built of carved rocks. Although it was burned by the fire, only the surface decoration was burned. The rock itself was not damaged at all. Crack, crack, crack. There were many cracks on the floor under my feet. They were all wooden floors, which were burned to charcoal. Huang Yiming followed behind Lin Yi without saying a word, but his eyes swept around from time to time, obviously alert. Lin Yi didn't feel anything, but his eyes would flash a green light from time to time. In his eyes, all the energy fluctuations here were constantly reflected, looking for suspicious traces. Passing through the outer corridor, I came to the main gate of the mansion. The main gate had been burned long ago, and only a door frame was left on the door, which was also charred. A musty smell rushed into Lin Yi's nose, making him feel a little itchy. After all, it had been several months, and all kinds of drinks and food in the bar were burned in that fire. Mixed with various decoration materials, the smell naturally lingered for a long time. What came into view was a huge hall, with many traces of burnt tables, chairs, and stages. Huang Yiming said, "This is the first floor dance floor of Lan Kuai-fong, and it is also the place with the most people." Lin Yi nodded, a green light flashed in his eyes, and he carefully observed the hall. The huge dance floor of nearly 500 square meters here can accommodate at least hundreds of people. A faint black resentment lingered here. Many miserable faces could be seen flickering and disappearing in the black resentment. These were all the resentments left in that fire, and now they seemed very faint. These resentments seemed to be about to completely dissipate. Not finding anything strange, Lin Yi looked to the left. The mansion was in the shape of a Chinese character Hui, and in the center of the mansion was a huge garden maze. But at this time, the place has turned into a scorched earth. Lin Yi walked to the left. He wanted to go around the first floor and check it carefully. There was a corridor on the left. After coming here, you can see a long corridor about 100 meters long. On one side of the corridor is a window, and you can see the central garden. Outside the forest are the doors of the guest rooms. These doors have been burned down, and the inside is completely visible, with charred and mixed. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 96. Exquisite carpets, gorgeous beds, exquisite sofas, and other furniture turned into charcoal. More or less, there are resentful emotions in these rooms, and faces flashing in resentment from time to time. It is obvious that there were men and women in these rooms during the fire. Lin Yi and Huang Yiming walked through this corridor and came to the other side of the mansion. At the end of this place is also a dance floor of hundreds of square meters, which was also burned to ashes. It took more than 10 minutes for Lin Yi to check the first floor and found no problems. "Let's go to the second floor," Lin Yi said slowly to Huang Yiming. Huang Yiming nodded, and the two came to the stairs next to the dance floor. The stairs here are also built with Qinggang stone, so they can be preserved. The two quickly climbed to the second floor, which is different from the first floor. The dance floor on the second floor seems to be built more gorgeously, using various gorgeous stone or metal materials. Now it looks like it has retained a lot of its original appearance except for the charred black. There is nothing special about this floor, and there is much less resentment. It seems that not many people died here. Huang Yiming nodded, a trace of disdain flashed across his mouth. There are only young masters and socialites here. The place where they enjoy themselves is naturally not more crowded than the one below. The first floor is full of ordinary people, so there are naturally more people. How does Mr. Lin know that there are fewer people here? Huang Yiming showed a trace of surprise in his eyes. It's nothing, there is much less resentment left here. I have some special skills, I can see the resentment of the dead. Huang Yiming was shocked when he heard the words, and looked at Lin Yi. Mr. Lin's skills are amazing, no wonder he is an expert in solving resentful spirit incidents. Lin Yi smiled slightly, it's just a small skill, not worth mentioning. The two talked for a while and continued to search the second floor. The second floor has many more separate rooms than the first floor. There are many special purpose items inside, which let Lin Yi see the luxury and decadence of the upper class of the Red Lotus Empire. It's only been a few decades, and the Red Lotus Empire has become rotten to the core. Let Monanshan go, that's all. Or is it that in the technological age, with material abundance, is the spiritual decay so serious? Lin Yi's eyes were cold, and the scene on the second floor flashed in his mind from time to time. In the end, the second floor also found nothing, and soon they came to the third floor. The third floor was different. Here were a series of separate small bars and private clubs. Obviously, only the upper class people would come here to party and have fun, or people with unique hobbies. After Lin Yi walked around, he found a separate bar on the third floor. Each bar is completely different, with various styles. But the resentment here is much heavier, a kind of long-term resentment that seems to be there and not there is entrenched here. Obviously, this third floor is not that simple, it is not just a bar. People often die here, and many people die. A cold light flashed in Lin Yi's eyes. Lin Yi walked towards one of the rooms. The small bar rooms here are also all built with Qinggang stone. Although it has been renovated, the structure itself has never changed. Entering a bar, what caught my eye was the burnt bar counter, broken glass bottles, various cocktail equipment, etc. This place is about 50 square meters, and it has the characteristics of a private bar. What Lin Yi saw at this time was a dark and pervasive resentment. The resentment here was so intense that he saw at least 30 faces flashing in the resentment. Among them were men and women, all very young people in their teens and 20s. One or two faces that were obviously children could even be seen. Lin Yi's eyes became colder and colder, and a sneer appeared at the corners of his mouth. It's really rotten. A few cold lights flashed in his eyes, and his eyes fell on a wall of the bar. There was an obvious secret door, which should have been blocked by something, so it was not exposed. But now with the burning of the fire, it has been clearly exposed. Walked over and took a look, and there was a room of about 10 square meters inside. Take a closer look, it is a pure Qinggang stone surface, without any other decoration. Although the flames from outside poured in, only the gate was burned black. Other places were still the same as before, with the color of Qinggang stone. In the center and on the walls of the room, there were some steel racks and chairs, and some steel torture instruments were placed next to them. These torture instruments and steel racks had many signs of drying due to the high temperature air. Lin Yi's eyes swept over them, and he could see that they were full of various resentful auras. Traces of blood. In his mind, he seemed to hear the countless desperate roars and shrill screams contained in these resentments. What kind of horror did they experience before they died? Huang Yiming, who was standing aside, showed a trace of coldness in his eyes. These termites of the empire will die cleanly this time. After all, the empire is an empire, with its own laws, although there are many corrupt people. But in this era, information spreads quickly, and many people still dare not put things on the surface. After all, this is an era of world change, with all kinds of powerful people emerging, and there are also strange forces since ancient times. Maybe if they are too arrogant and offend others, they will be killed in secret. So even if they are decaying, they are hiding in secret and dare not show up in broad daylight. Although this hidden darkness is more terrifying and more desperate, just like the house of Chang Sui that Lin Yi had seen before. In order to practice her skills, she killed at least dozens or hundreds of people. Lin Yi had a blank expression on his face and turned around to continue to carefully check the third floor. But the final result was still the same as the first and second floors. It was empty here, with nothing unusual, although the resentment was a bit stronger. In addition, there were no resentful spirits and no weird existence. All this seemed to be no different from an ordinary burned ruin. A few hours later, they returned to the entrance of the first floor. Huang Yiming looked at Lin Yi. "Mr. Lin, What did you find after your inspection? Lin Yi thought carefully for a while, and then slowly said, nothing was found, at least on the surface. But it's true that someone is missing here. Then there must be something wrong here, but we haven't found out the truth yet. Huang Yiming pursed his lips and didn't say anything. He felt that Lin Yi was talking nonsense. Everyone knows what happened when something like this happened. But out of politeness, he didn't say anything, but he implicitly expressed doubts about Lin Yi's ability. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 97. Huang Yiming looked at Lin Yi with some disappointment, but he immediately restrained his inner thoughts. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Lin Yi did not notice Huang Yiming's expression, and even if he noticed it, he would not care too much. They have returned to the first floor. Standing at the entrance of Lan Kuai-fong, he looked up at the three-story building. Inexplicably, he always has a sense of disharmony. Thinking of what he just experienced, he couldn't help but feel a little strange. Where exactly is this strange feeling of disharmony? Lin Yi's eyes kept scanning, while recalling everything he had just seen in his mind. He crossed his arms and kept tapping his arms. This was a state of deep thinking. Huang Yiming, who was standing beside him, saw Lin Yi so immersed in thinking, and did not speak. The street was still very deserted, and they went in to search and wander around for only 2 hours. Orchid Street in the morning is completely different from other streets. Now is the time for all the bars on this street to rest. In front of the French window of Rose Bar not far from the street, Ms. Rose looked at the two people standing at the gate. Didn't you find anything? Ms. Rose had a playful smile on her lips. If the blood department can't take it down, then our flower department will come. I don't know what Yin Suili's expression will be, he. Ms. Rose seemed to have thought of something, and the folding fan in her right hand gently blocked the corner of her mouth, smiling like 100 flowers blooming. In front of the gate outside Lan Kuai-fong, Lin Yi's eyes flashed with green light. The true destiny Daoji was pushed to the extreme by him, and he looked at the building carefully bit by bit. After more than 10 seconds, his eyes condensed, as if he thought of where the incoordination was. Height. Between the exterior and interior of this mansion, the height we see is problematic. Lin Yi suddenly spoke, waking up Huang Yiming on the side. Huang Yiming looked at Lin Yi with a hint of surprise in his eyes. Mr. Lin, what did you find? Lin Yi nodded. There should be a secret room in this mansion. Let's go and take a look. Okay, Huang Yiming agreed, his eyes full of surprise. This mission came from the top of the empire, because it involved a lot of people, and their blood department was a little angry. Now that some clues seemed to have been discovered, he immediately became energetic. With a hint of solemnity in his eyes, he quickly followed Lin Yi into the first floor. Lin Yi came to the corridor on the left side of the dance floor, where there was a row of rooms. He stood in front of the door of the first room and looked at the door of the second room. Lin Yi began to move forward, and the length of each step was the same, not more or less. He walked a total of 15 steps and came to the entrance of the second room. 15 steps. Huang Yiming looked at Lin Yi's strange behavior and suddenly understood something. Lin Yi returned to the original place and walked into the first room, which was filled with countless burnt furniture. He started from the wall near the door and walked towards the opposite wall. 12.5 steps? Sure enough, there is 2.5 steps less space here. Looking at the wall in front of him, he showed a hint of joy in his eyes. Turning to Huang Yiming, there should be a passage behind this wall, 2.5 steps away, about 5 meters. Huang Yiming frowned. No way, we checked it at the beginning, and we can confirm that it is solid by knocking. We also asked the designer who redesigned the house at that time. According to his design drawings, it should be solid inside. According to him, this wall was also tested at the beginning. It is solid inside, so we just renovated it directly. We also followed the designer's advice and did not damage the wall. Huang Yiming showed a hint of doubt on his face. That's it, you missed an important place, Lin Yi said with a serious face. I'll break through here and see what's going on inside. Mr. Lin, please step back. Huang Yiming's face was serious. Lin Yi did not stop him upon hearing this, but stepped back a few steps to make way. Huang Yiming stood at the position where Lin Yi had just been, with his legs slightly spread out in a horse stance. He raised his hands slightly, and a faint black light appeared on his palms. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with a green light, and he caught the flow of energy in Huang Yiming's body. As a member of the blood division, Huang Yiming was also a master who was reaching the top. Lin Yi took a peek at the skills in his body and grasped the secret of his skills. The focus of the skill is on his hands. It will make his hands several times harder under the infusion of energy, and even comparable to steel. Is it a hand skill like Eagle Claw? Huang Yiming naturally didn't know that Lin Yi had mastered his skills. With his hands turning black, like black steel, he suddenly stabbed at the wall in front of him. His 5 fingers became claws, and his fingertips almost turned into a piece of sharp black thorns. Bang! With a crisp muffled sound, the solid rock was torn into 2 holes like tofu dregs. Huang Yiming's hands were like excavators, constantly digging out broken stone chips from the wall. The room was soon covered with dust, and Huang Yiming let out a cry. It's through, and the back is really empty. A hole in the wall with a diameter of 50 centimeters appeared in front of Huang Yiming. Lin Yi walked over and looked at the hole in the wall. It was 30 centimeters thick. The wall inside seemed to be covered with a layer of special material. That's why it was impossible to detect whether the wall was solid or hollow. Now that a new clue has been discovered, Huang Yiming's eyes showed excitement. At this time, Lin Yi looked at him and said, "Mobilize the police force and search it carefully." Huang Yiming was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted. There are so many secret rooms hidden in Lan Kuai-Fong, and it is impossible for the 2 of them to find them all. It requires a lot of manpower and material resources to do it, and it is safer with more people. Whether it is a vengeful spirit or a strange existence, they rarely appear in front of a large number of humans. It seems that for some reason, they instinctively avoid a large number of humans. Woo woo woo. The sirens kept ringing, and soon surrounded Lan Kuai-Fong. Various police officers holding tools entered Lan Kuai-Fong and began to investigate. Standing outside Lan Kuai-Fong, Lin Yi watched all this calmly. A glimmer of green light flashed in his eyes from time to time. The world in his eyes was very magical. Countless energy lights filled the eyes, and a red power like fire continued to rise in Lan Kuai-Fong. Tracing back to the source, it came from the police officers. Every police officer was filled with blood-red energy fluctuations, and the fluctuations contained a trace of spirituality. Lin Yi was very surprised. Hey, the enhancement of spirituality not only activates energy. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 98. Even the vitality contained in the living body itself has been affected, and strange phenomena have begun to appear. When there are more people, countless people are full of spiritual vitality and spontaneously attract each other, gathering into a sea. Finally, it becomes the surging red vitality flame in front of Lin Yi, covering the entire Lan Kuai-Fong. This flame of vitality is so hot that it seems that the resentment in Lan Kuai-Fong is suppressed and cannot come out. Standing in front of the gate, Lin Yi carefully observes all the changes in Lan Kuai-Fong. His eyes are searching for all discordant colors. The resentment of the vengeful spirits or the breath of strange things are black. Under the illumination of the red vitality flames, it is easier to expose. He keeps circling around Lan Kuai-Fong, controlling the frequency of the use of the True Destiny solution. The True Destiny solution has the characteristic of pointing directly to the essence, and matter cannot form an obstacle to his eyes. But where there is a problem, he still needs to get close to observe to confirm. Lin Yi keeps circling around Lan Kuai-fong, not going in, and Huang Yiming follows behind him. I don't know what Lin Yi is looking at, but Lin Yi found the problem as soon as he arrived. Huang Yiming naturally only followed and had no right to speak. In the blink of an eye, it was night. Lin Yi looked at Lan Kuai-fong thoughtfully, then turned to look at Huang Yiming. I guess you will have to spend some time tonight to draw all the secret room drawings. After we get the drawings tomorrow, we can explore carefully and comprehensively. I'll leave first. We will continue to gather here at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Huang Yiming nodded when he heard it. I understand, Mr. Lin, please take care. Walking out of the charred door of Lan Kuai-fong, Lin Yi looked around and walked in the direction he came from. In the Rose Bar, Mrs. Rose's eyes were full of interesting light, watching his disappearing back. A guy with some ability actually discovered these problems so quickly. I didn't expect that there are so many secret rooms in Lan Kuai-fong. In this case, there is a reason for the disappearances that happened in the previous dynasty. The speculation about this Honglian Moro is indeed correct. Then I look forward to your next performance, Lin Yi. Take a puff of cigarette, and a circle of rose-colored smoke slowly exhaled from Mrs. Rose's mouth. The smoke made her look more beautiful and attractive. Lin Yi naturally didn't know that someone was staring at him again. He was walking towards the Wanchai-wu. When he came to the intersection of Lanhua Street and was about to cross the road, he suddenly felt something in his heart. He felt a strange sight, which made his back shiver. A green light flashed in his eyes and swept around. It was 7 o'clock in the evening, the peak time for getting off work, and there were people everywhere. What was wrong with Lin Yi not coming out? In an alley on Lanhua Street, a black twisted figure was looking outside the alley. The eyes were full of resentment, anger, madness, and a trace of fear. It was afraid of the majestic vitality that permeated outside, like a flame-like vitality, which made it feel uncomfortable. The gaze that Lin Yi felt came from it, but it was not deliberately directed at him. This strange and twisted figure seemed to hate all the people outside who were dressed brightly and beautifully. It could be vaguely seen that it was wearing tattered clothes, as if it was a person, or it used to be a person. It seemed to want to rush out, but in the end, because of fear, it slowly sank into the darkness. Lin Yi at the crossroads shook his head, and the strange sight disappeared. There are more and more strange phenomena in this Honglian city. I feel cold even in broad daylight. Lin Yi, swaying and with his hands behind his back, like an old man, followed the flow of people to the other side of the road. At the end of the get-off-work day, everyone was busy and their steps were fast. The people crossing the road with Lin Yi far surpassed him in a few breaths. About an hour later, Lin Yi returned to the Wanchai-wu. It was very lively inside. There were 3 tables in the lobby, and people were enjoying delicious food. The aroma of steak, bread, and broth filled the air, making people salivate. Brandy looked at Lin Yi and called out, "Manager, you're back. What do you want to eat?" "A bacon toast, a cup of hot milk, and a meat pie." After saying that, Lin Yi had already sat in his exclusive seat, on the sofa by the window. He picked up the newspaper on the table and began to read it. Suddenly, his brows furrowed slightly. The newspaper published news of a serial murder case. The victims were all women. Their stomachs were cut open, and their uteruses were cut open and exposed. Although there were no photos, according to the description, there seemed to be something in their stomachs. So far, it has happened for 3 consecutive days. Lin Yi shook his head. It's getting more and more chaotic. There is no doubt that Lin Yi can be sure that this must be done by some kind of vengeful spirit or strange existence. When Brandy came to Lin Yi and put down the plate, "Manager, it's ready, please enjoy." Lin Yi looked at the exquisite plate in front of him, with a piece of bacon toast on it and a piece of cut meat pie next to it. A cup of 500 ml hot milk exuded a rich aroma. The bacon was smoked from the best beef, and the meat pie was made of fresh beef and refined wheat flour. There are no counterfeit and shoddy products in this world, at least not yet. Enjoying this sumptuous dinner, the TV in the lobby was turned on by Brandy. It was news time, and the latest news was broadcast as soon as it was turned on. The latest urgent news in Honglian City. At 12 noon, the famous Lan Kwai Fong on Orchid Street once again welcomed a large number of police officers to search. It seems that there is a major discovery. Hearing that it was related to Lan Kwai Fong, Lin Yi raised his head. The picture on the TV has turned into the sky of Lan Kwai Fong. Obviously this was shot from the air, and there were at least dozens of police cars outside Lan Kwai Fong below. Dense police officers kept coming in and out of Lan Kwai Fong. The news anchor was telling the afternoon incident. Lin Yi glanced at it for a few times and then lowered his head. He noticed that he was also in the image on the TV. However, because of the high-altitude camera, he was submerged in the crowd and was inconspicuous. At night, around 9 o'clock. Gradually, the Wanchaiwu was empty. Lin Yi looked at the street outside. The crowd had disappeared and it was empty. The recent abnormal situation in Honglian City has made everyone afraid to stay outside late at night. Lin Yi glanced at the brightly lit street, which was empty, and felt a sense of ominousness. He turned to Brandy and said, "Close the shop, and you should go to bed early. I will also get up early tomorrow, so let's have breakfast as usual." Brandy was busy behind the bar. Hearing this, he stretched his head out and smiled at Lin Yi. "I know, manager. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 99. Bang, bang, bang. After the sound of hurriedly placing pots and pans, Brandy walked out from behind the bar. He glanced at Lin Yi. "Manager, aren't you going to sleep?" Lin Yi rolled his eyes at him. "Okay, go to sleep, I still need to watch TV for a while." Brandy nodded. "Okay, then I'll rest, good night, manager." Then he went to the corridor. Dong, dong, dong. With the sound of footsteps, he went up to the second floor. Lin Yi's eyes fell on the TV, which was playing boring GG. Picking up the remote control and turning off the TV, Lin Yi's eyes swept across the hall. 4 figures slowly emerged: the bad doctor, the purple corpse monster, the 2-headed dog, and the weird child. "Go patrol." The 4 figures received the order, slowly faded, and disappeared in Lin Yi's eyes. They went to their respective patrol areas to guard against all possible weird existences. The weird existence of the other world may come at any time every night. After arranging the night watch, Lin Yi got up and returned to his room. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, he began to practice the Yiling Jing. Hand seals slowly appeared in his hands, and wisps of green light permeated his body. It made him look mysterious and full of majesty. Time passed by minute, and soon it was 12 o'clock in the middle of the night. With the last seal, Lin Yi's whole body of green light suddenly retracted and gathered in his spiritual consciousness. One of the seals of the hand seal lotus became completely bright. The 22nd seal has been lit, and there are 59 more seals. Dong dong dong. Weird footsteps sounded, and Lin Yi's eyebrows jumped. This footsteps was not transmitted to his ears, but sounded directly in his mind. "Interesting, are you here?" Jumping up from the bed, Lin Yi opened the door of his bedroom. The footsteps came from a distance, approaching him step by step. But this footsteps appeared in his mind. He could feel that the other party was approaching him, and he could even feel from which direction the other party was approaching him. Lin Yi stood outside the door and walked towards the direction where the sound came from. in the direction of the backyard. After crossing the corridor, he came here. His 4 summoned creatures all came around silently to protect him. The footsteps were getting closer and closer, and suddenly Lin Yi's pupils shrank. At some point, countless black mists appeared in the yard. The wall of the yard in front of him became twisted and decayed, as if it had experienced thousands of years of ruin. A strange face appeared there, a face without eyes, only a mouth. It seemed to want to come out of the wall, and its head stretched out frantically. But the wall was like a layer of tough leather. No matter how hard it wanted to rush out, it could not break through the last restraint. It had no eyes, but Lin Yi felt that it was looking at him. A feeling of greed, appetite, and anger appeared in Lin Yi's mind. This seemed to be the feeling that the other party deliberately implied in his mind, wanting him to feel fear. Lin Yi frowned, thinking, and made a seal in his hand. He used the Vajra seal of the Vajra seal all over his body to operate the Vajra seal. A layer of golden light covered his skin, and his mind became round and bright. He seemed to have turned into a vase, invulnerable to all kinds of things. Bang! There was a muffled sound in the dark, and he felt that something seemed to explode in his mind. Hiss! A strange scream sounded, and the face that wanted to rush out of the wall in front of him shrank back, as if it was frightened. But the next moment, the face on the wall suddenly reappeared and rushed out 1 meter. The dilapidated wall stretched and twisted like rubber, covering this face and preventing it from coming. The big mouth full of sharp teeth opened, and the terrifying face looked at Lin Yi. But the wall had a huge elastic force, and it suddenly contracted and pulled the head back. Bang! There was a collision sound on the spiritual level, and the courtyard wall returned to its normal appearance. And the human face did not appear again. The strange black air around it slowly dissipated, and the wall returned to its original appearance. Lin Yi looked at the scene and shook his head. Did it bounce back? Attacks on the spiritual level are a bit dangerous. Fortunately, the Vajra seal has spiritual means. The Aquarius seal in the seal can make the user's spirit firm and smooth, and even rebound spiritual attacks. At this time, the Wanchai seemed to be in another world, filled with a faint black mist. Lin Yi frowned, and a wave of collision of power appeared in the Wanchai. The figure flashed, like a whirlwind, and rushed into the hall of the Wanchai. There was an illusory shadow, shrouded in a black robe, and his hands were dry like dead wood. The illusory child appeared here at some point and collided with it. The tentacles made of countless black smoke kept attacking it. The black-robed weird mummy was filled with a shadow. Dozens of shadows turned into sharp thorns, piercing the smoke tentacles. The two were deadlocked, and this weird shadow was obviously a powerful and weird existence at the level of human immortals. In Lin Yi's summoning album, the pure combat power of this strange child is the weakest. But the nature of its power is very strange. It can create illusions and pose a huge threat to living things. At this time, Lin Yi's eyes turned cold, and 6 blood-colored tentacles appeared out of thin air around him. With terrifying power and corrosiveness, he pulled at the shadow. His whole body was emitting green and golden light, and he pinched the demon seal and the lion seal in his hands, and his whole body was shining with golden light. A light shout. Hey! Suddenly, a spiritual impact exploded in the spiritual level of this weird mummy shadow. A Vajra appeared in its spirit, making it stiff. At this time, 6 blood tentacles also pulled it in an instant. Bang! With a muffled sound, the mummy shadow exploded and turned directly into a black smoke. The weird existence at the level of the human immortal could not stop Lin Yi from attacking the weird objects and weird existence in the Wanchai. The black fog around rolled and swallowed the smoke. At the same time, a pure black weird power floated and was drawn into Lin Yi's body. Following the operation of the Odd Spirit Sutra, it was transformed into a spiritual wave and injected into the lotus handprint. The 30-second handprint was directly lit up, which made Lin Yi happy. Okay, today's troubles are dealt with. Lin Yi knew from the information provided by the blood department that the place where strange things are usually stored. Usually only one or two strange beings will descend at night. Unless the number of strange things reaches double digits, more strange beings may descend. And there are some time intervals, which need to be inferred by yourself. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 100. The items in the hall that were damaged in the chaos just now were being repaired in the black mist. Just a few breaths and everything returned to its original state. In the space covered by the strange Rubik's Cube, all items will be automatically repaired. This is a strange power. Lin Yi asked several summons to patrol by himself, then returned to the bedroom and started to run his skills. As the essence circulated in his body, Lin Yi entered a state of trance. The sun rose in the east, and a red light enveloped the earth. Spring has arrived, and Red Lotus City once again ushered in a beautiful day. Lin Yi had breakfast early, said a few words to Brandy, and then left the Wanchai View. There are important things to do today, so we can't delay them casually. There are already a lot of people on the street, today is a working day. When he arrived at the gate of Lan Kuai-fong, Huang Yiming was already waiting here. He held a document bag in his hand, apparently the result of yesterday's search. Seeing Lin Yi's arrival, Huang Yiming had a smile on his face. "Mr. Lin, you got up so early." "It's not as early as you," Lin Yi said with a laugh. Huang Yiming smiled and said, "This is the information compiled after collecting all the police search information last night. Mr. Lin, would you like to take a look?" Lin Yi nodded and took the document, which was at least half a finger thick. Opening the document bag, there are papers filled with documents densely packed inside. Lin Yi looked around, came to the corridor in Lan Kuai-fong, and sat down on the corridors on both sides. It took about an hour to flip through these documents page by page. Memorizing all the information, Lin Yi kept frowning. Unexpectedly, the problem here actually involves the noble of the previous dynasty, Red Lotus Moro. Huang Yiming nodded, "We didn't think about this problem at all at first. There are also men in black who specialize in studying ancient history. After hearing what happened here, they discovered the problem. In Gurren Moro's era, there was a serial disappearance case involving hundreds of people. All the deceased disappeared mysteriously, and even some strong men who had mastered strange objects were unable to trace their traces. At that time, some people thought it was caused by unknown strange beings. But in the end, there was no evidence, which resulted in 3 consecutive years of law and order chaos. It wasn't until the death of Gurren Moro that this serial disappearance case completely stopped. But no one ever connected this matter to Gurren Moro at that time. When we thoroughly investigated the mansion yesterday, we found traces in various secret rooms. No one has used it for more than 180 years. It is estimated that the time was just after the death of Gurren Moro. There are several desiccated corpses in a secret room underground. According to the tests, those corpses were crazily tortured. There were even signs of gnawing. They would have ended up in the incinerator. There is an incinerator connected to the kitchen chimney in the underground secret room of this mansion. As long as it's handled well, there won't be any suspicion at all." Lin Yi pursed his lips. In this world, there is really no shortage of perverted powerful people with twisted hearts in any era. But this is normal. After becoming extremely wealthy, only more stimulation can satisfy their ordinary life. Isn't it starting to appear now? A strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and Lin Yi glanced at Huang Yiming. Huang Yiming looked at Lin Yi's expression and his heart trembled. He naturally knew what Lin Yi meant. He was silent for a moment and did not speak, because this was not a matter that he had the ability to control. "Well, it has nothing to do with me anyway. Human beings have always been like this, despicable and evil-minded, taking pleasure in killing fellow humans." Lin Yi stood up and looked at Lan Kuai-fong. "Let's go, it's my turn to search carefully." First stop, basement. Huang Yiming watched Lin Yi stride forward, and he quickly followed. The two quickly arrived at the dance floor of the hall, where a large hole was dug. Under the cave entrance is a staircase that leads all the way to the ground. Da-da-da. The footsteps of the two people sounded on the dark stairs, and a flashlight appeared in Huang Yiming's hand. The stairs are not deep, only about 3 meters to the bottom. What you enter is a small basement of about 20 square meters. The flashlight light swept over this place, and there was a 2-meter-long brick platform in the center of the room. There are 4 iron locks scattered on the 4 corners of the platform, with a black dry mark on them. Is this one of the places where Red Lotus Moro tortures his victims? This seems to be a place dedicated to disposing of corpses. When we came here, we also saw a half-decomposed skeleton. For hundreds of years, the body has completely decomposed. After our on-site restoration, we can confirm that the owner of the skeleton was not completely dead at that time. Here he bleeds alive and agonizes to death. Lin Yi nodded, his eyes flashing with green light. The extremely rich resentment surrounded the brick platform, almost turning into liquid. From time to time, you can see strange, unwilling, resentful, and crazy faces flashing through the air with resentment. In a short period of time, at least 30 faces appeared, and all of them had black blood and tears. Lin Yi could feel the despair and fear in their hearts at that time. His eyes swept through the basement and landed on a passage next to it. Huang Yiming noticed Lin Yi's gaze. That's where the small incinerator leads. The two walked along the corridor for about 5 meters and came to the second room. There was an old furnace here, a 10-square-meter room, with black coal and a barrel piled up in the corner. The barrel exuded a pungent smell, which seemed to be some kind of oil. That's kerosene, commonly used in the previous dynasty, oil collected from the ground, and Honglian Moro used it specifically to burn corpses. Lin Yi nodded, without saying anything, but his eyes kept sweeping over here. There's nothing unusual here, let's go to other secret rooms. The two left the underground secret room, and Huang Yiming said as they walked. After a comprehensive survey of the first floor, there is only a basement here, and the rest of the ground is all mud. Lin Yi nodded. He had just seen that there was a small hole every 2 meters on the ground in the hall. It looked like a hole was drilled underground to explore a possible secret room. The two returned to the first floor, and Huang Yiming took Lin Yi to the corridor on the left. According to the search of the rooms on the first floor, a total of 18 small secret rooms were found. The layout inside is the same, and there are many torture instruments in the secret rooms. And they can be connected to each other, but the passages are very narrow.